The mountains were silent except for the wind, a low howl rolling through the frozen pines like the growl of some ancient predator. Snow drifted down in lazy curtains, thick enough to blur the distance, yet clear enough for a patient eye to see movement where none should be. On a jagged slope of rock and ice, a figure lay pressed against the earth, wrapped in a shroud of ragged white and gray fibers. His breath ghosted in faint wisps, timed carefully to the rhythm of his heartbeat. Hale had become part of the mountain. For years, he had hunted men, and now he hunted something far stranger. His rifle, a matte black predator's tooth, rested steady on its bipod, barrel fitted with a long suppressor wrapped in frozen condensation. Through the scope, his pale blue eyes scanned the ridges below. Nothing stirred. Not yet. The silence meant they were near. Hale's mind wandered briefly to the irony of his situation. Once a soldier in wars fought between men. Now he was Earth's chosen shadow against intruders who considered humanity beneath them. He had not asked for this role, but he had accepted it. Better him than someone less patient, less ruthless. He had buried his doubts long ago. Only purpose remained. A flicker in the snow caught his eye. Not natural, not wind-driven. Hale's lips tightened as he adjusted the scope. Between the white drifts, a shimmer of unnatural light glowed faintly, as if snow itself bent around something that should not exist. They were coming. Galactic soldiers. He had no other name for them. Taller than men, armored in plates that pulsed with soft azure veins of energy, they moved with predatory precision. Their helmets were faceless, featureless except for the thin lines of luminescence where vision systems lay hidden. Weapons unlike any Hale had ever seen hung from their hands. Long, sleek rifles with barrels that seemed to hum faintly in the air. They moved in formation, confident, scanning the terrain with devices that projected invisible webs of data. Each soldier was a sentinel, a hunter with technology far beyond human measure. Yet, for all their superiority, they moved without fear of the land. That was their weakness. Hale had lived on this mountain for weeks, memorized every contour, every windbreak, every hollow capable of swallowing sound. They were strangers here, no matter their machines. Hale let his rifle rest while his mind measured distance, angles, timing. He counted 5 of them this time. Always groups of 5, disciplined, searching. They were not careless, but their caution belonged to machines, not instinct. He wondered if they even knew what they hunted. Did they think him some last survivor clinging to a lost world? Or did they suspect that one man could bleed them, make them pay for every step? Snow creaked faintly beneath their boots, muffled by the storm, but not hidden from ears tuned by years of stalking. Hale shifted slightly, careful not to disturb the frost-laden fibers of his ghillie suit. One slow inhale, one slower exhale. His heartbeat steadied. The lead alien paused, raising a hand. The others froze instantly. Their formation locked. Their scanners swept the trees above and the rocks below. Hale knew the range of those scanners. He had watched them sweep past him before, blind to his stillness. Machines were powerful, but they could not feel intent. They could not smell danger. They could not hear the whisper of a rifle's bolt sliding into place. He resisted the urge to fire. 5 targets, 5 threats, and only one chance before their technology triangulated his position. Patience. Always patience. He had lived because he waited longer than those who sought him. The aliens advanced again, spreading wider now, scanning individual ridges. One moved closer, stepping with a measured gait across the snowfield below Hale's perch. Hale tracked him through the scope, crosshairs resting where the glowing armor met the smooth line of the helmet. His finger rested lightly on the trigger, a lover's touch. Not yet. His mind pulled back, considering. To kill one was to announce himself, but to wait too long was to invite the net to close around him. A human sniper's eternal balance. Silence versus necessity. The alien stopped, tilting its helmet as though listening to something beyond the storm. Hale narrowed his eyes. Were they learning? Could they sense his attention? He adjusted the rifle a fraction of an inch, the cold metal biting into his cheek. He thought of the last patrol he had ambushed. 3 had died before the others realized they were under fire. The 4th had fallen into a trap of explosives wired into a snowbank. The 5th had fled, broadcasting. That was why these new hunters came so soon, sharper, angrier. He had earned their notice, and with it, their respect. The alien closest to him raised its weapon and scanned the slope directly across from Hale's position. Wrong direction. Their machines had guessed poorly. Hale's lips curved in the faintest ghost of a smile. His finger tightened. The rifle barked softly, a muted cough swallowed by snow. The alien's helmet snapped back, luminous veins dimming as it collapsed into the drift. Silence swallowed the moment. For an instant, the others froze, heads swiveling. Then they erupted into motion, weapons rising, scanning arcs of energy lancing through the storm. Hale was already gone. He slid back from his nest, rifle tucked tight, leaving no trace but compressed snow. His heart pounded, but his mind remained clear. One kill was enough. Fear would grow in them now, just as it always did. As he moved along the ridge, Hale felt the weight of inevitability. He could not stop them all, not forever. Their numbers stretched beyond his imagination. But he could show them that Earth was not empty, not passive. Every mountain, every forest, every shadow might hold another like him. That thought alone could bleed them of certainty. He crouched beneath an overhang, steadying his breath as alien voices echoed faintly through the storm. Their language was harsh, metallic, carried on strange harmonics. He could not understand the words, but the tone was clear: frustration, alarm, the edge of fear. They were hunters, yes, but tonight they had felt prey. The storm thickened, wrapping the mountains in deeper veils of white. Hale cleaned the condensation from his scope, checked his ammunition, and studied the shifting silhouettes of the aliens regrouping below. He whispered to himself, not a prayer, but a soldier's promise, one shot at a time. And then he melted back into the snow, waiting for the next mistake. The body in the snow had not yet cooled before the aliens closed in around it. Their formation tightened, weapons sweeping across the storm as if they could erase Hale from the landscape with sheer vigilance. He watched from a hollow in the rocks high above, breath shallow, body rigid. Every instinct told him to stay invisible, but the sniper in him understood that stillness was not enough. Stillness made you prey. Movement, deliberate and invisible, made you a ghost. He eased backward, boots finding memorized footholds, and slid into a gully carved by wind. Snow swallowed him whole, gilly fibers bristling with frost. The alien scanners passed overhead in luminous waves, green-blue grids that mapped the terrain, but not the man buried inside it. Hale knew the limits of their technology now. They hunted heat and movement, and he offered neither. Below, the squad formed a circle around their fallen comrade. One knelt and pressed a gauntlet against the corpse's armor, sending out a flare of energy that crackled in the air. Hale felt it tingle against his skin even at this distance. A report, no doubt, a signal sent back to whatever ship hung above the clouds. Reinforcements would come, eventually. He could not let that matter. His war was here and now. The aliens broke formation, fanning wider than before. Their arrogance had cracked, but their discipline held. Hale noted the difference. Before, they had moved with calm inevitability. Now, there was a sharpness, a suspicion in every turn of their helmets. He had wounded their pride, and pride was leverage. Hale moved along the ridge, careful to stay just ahead of their sweep. Every few meters, he paused, studied their patterns, and mapped their behavior in his mind. The soldier in him admired their efficiency. The predator in him searched for weakness. He found one when the storm thickened again. Visibility dropped to less than 50 meters. The aliens tightened instinctively, closer together, and their formation lost flexibility. Hale settled into a pocket of shadow beneath an outcrop, set his rifle, and waited. Patience had always been his deadliest weapon. The second alien revealed himself by sound, not sight. A faint crunch of snow, too heavy, too deliberate. Hale's scope caught the shape a moment later. The shimmer of armor, the faint pulse of blue veins glowing against white. He adjusted his aim, slow as ice breaking in spring. The crosshairs drifted until they rested against the alien's side, where plates overlapped and light pulsed weakly. He exhaled, squeezed. The shot cracked softly, muffled, but not silent. The alien staggered, dropped to one knee, then collapsed into the drift. The squad wheeled in unison, energy beams slicing across the snow. Hale rolled from his position, leaving only a shallow depression. Plasma hissed against the rocks where he had lain seconds before, sending shards of molten stone into the storm. His boots carried him downslope into a ravine, legs burning, lungs steady. He had trained for this all his life. Shoot, move, vanish. The cold no longer existed. Pain was irrelevant. Only survival, only the kill. The aliens regrouped again, but their voices were sharper now, tones clipped, urgent. Their arrogance was unraveling into something he recognized, fear hidden behind discipline. He had seen it in men before, and now he saw it in beings who claimed to be gods of the stars. He set another trap, a cluster of rocks balanced on a ledge above a narrow pass. With careful movements, he loosened them just enough that the slightest vibration would bring them down. Then he laid tracks in the snow leading into the pass, his boot prints deliberately obvious, the trail of prey too careless to hide. Minutes later, he watched from concealment as two aliens followed the trail. Their weapons were raised, their scanners sweeping. They never looked up. Hale's hand flicked a stone against the ledge, and gravity did the rest. Boulders thundered down, smashing into armor, breaking formation, and burying one of them beneath a weight no technology could deflect. The other scrambled free, but stumbled into Hale's line of fire. The suppressed shot ended his panic before it could become a warning. 3 down, 2 remained. For the first time, Hale allowed himself a breath of satisfaction. Not triumph. Never that. Not yet, but recognition that he had broken them piece by piece. They were stronger, faster, armored in ways he could not comprehend, yet they bled and broke when stone crushed them and bullets found gaps. They were not untouchable. The last 2 regrouped at the fallen, their glowing armor bright against the storm. Hale could feel their anger even at a distance. They fired blindly into the cliffs, their beams carving molten scars across rock and ice. Hale stayed low, silent, letting their rage expend itself. He knew what would follow. Rage turned to caution, and caution slowed them down. His position was no longer safe. They would triangulate eventually, no matter how well he hid. He began to retreat deeper into the mountains, steps deliberate, body blending into the storm. Behind him, the aliens prowled, slower now, deliberate in their own way. They would not stop. Hale thought of Earth far below the orbiting ships, of cities darkened by fear, of people waiting for a sign that resistance mattered. He did not fight for medals or commands. He fought so that when the stories were told, they would say that humanity did not bow. If one sniper could haunt the mountains and make giants bleed, then perhaps others would find courage to fight. He reached a cliffside overlooking a frozen valley and paused. The world stretched before him, white and endless, silent but for the storm. Somewhere beyond that horizon, ships hung in orbit, watching. Somewhere below, his hunters crept closer, relentless. He chambered another round, feeling the smooth brass slide into place. His hands were steady. The storm eased slightly, revealing 2 glowing figures against the snow. They moved with caution now, scanning every shadow, weapons raised. Hale smiled faintly. They were learning, yes, but too late. He had already become part of the mountain, and the mountain had endless patience. He settled behind the rifle, cheek pressed against frozen steel, eyes sharp. His breathing slowed, each inhale measured, each exhale silent. The crosshairs aligned with the nearer figure. He waited, letting the alien step just far enough to expose its flank. One shot. The alien spun, fell. The last soldier froze, armor glowing brighter, weapons sweeping in desperation. Hale shifted, repositioned, prepared. The hunt was not finished. The mountain kept its silence, but Hale felt it watching with him. Hale's world narrowed to the crunch of his boots in the snow and the burn of cold air in his lungs. The storm had thinned to a bitter haze, making every ridge and shadow sharper, every movement more dangerous. Somewhere behind him, the alien survivors adjusted their hunt. He could not see them now, but he felt their presence pressing against the mountains like wolves closing in on a stag. He stopped beneath an overhang, listening. The silence stretched, thick and brittle. A faint hum broke it, a drone's wings slicing through the air. He dropped to the ground, rifle tucked close, body flattened against the stone. The drone drifted overhead, a sphere glowing faintly with blue latticework, its scanners combing the snow for heat. Hale slowed his breathing until it was almost nothing. The beam passed within a meter of his body, washing him in pale light, but his ghillie suit and the ice-cold rock kept him hidden. When the drone moved on, he slid into a cleft in the cliff face and forced himself deeper into shadow. His pulse steadied. The aliens were adapting, learning. He had cut down 3 of them, but their technology was not static, nor was their patience. Sooner or later, they would catch him if he relied only on stillness and snow. He would need to strike harder, faster, with more precision. A flicker of movement below drew his eye. The last 2 soldiers moved carefully along the valley floor, their armor gleaming faintly, no longer arrogant, no longer careless. Between them walked another figure, taller, heavier, armor traced with red lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. Hale felt his stomach tighten. A commander. This one carried himself with an assurance the others had lacked. His weapon held low but ready, his pace unhurried. This was no mere tracker. This was a hunter of hunters. Hale's hands tightened on the rifle. He had hoped to whittle the squad to nothing, to bleed them until they fled. But this commander changed everything. His presence meant escalation. The aliens would not let a single sniper define the balance of this war. They had sent someone who could end him. He scanned their formation, searching for flaws. The commander walked between his soldiers, confident but not careless. The body language spoke of experience, shoulders low, weapon angled toward the ridges, helmet turning smoothly to cover blind spots. Hale knew the type. He had followed men like that into battle before, and he had buried more than a few. Still, the presence of such a leader meant this hunt was no longer about discipline alone. Now it was personal. The thought stirred something in Hale that he had not felt in years. Pride, perhaps, or grim satisfaction. If they sent their best against him, then they feared him. Fear was currency in war. He shifted his position, crawling along the ledge until he found an angle where the snow drifted just enough to shield his muzzle flash. The crosshairs floated over the nearest soldier, then slid to the commander. Every instinct screamed for patience, yet every calculation told him this was his moment. He steadied, slowed, and squeezed. The shot cracked through the storm. The soldier to the commander's left dropped instantly, armor sparking as the round pierced a joint. The commander pivoted, weapon rising, and the second soldier unleashed a volley of plasma into the cliffs. Hale rolled back as molten stone erupted around him. Heat seared through his ghillie suit, the air stinking of scorched rock and metal. He slid down the slope into deeper snow, heart hammering, lungs tight. The mountain sheltered him, but not perfectly. Plasma beams carved gouges into the ridges above, sending avalanches of powder cascading down. The commander's voice carried through the storm, harsh and guttural, commanding, steady. Hale did not need to understand the words. Tone was enough. This was no panic. This was a predator tightening the net. He crouched behind a fallen tree, checked his rifle, and chambered another round. His hands remained steady, though his pulse thudded in his ears. He was bleeding time now. Every engagement risked their scanners adapting, narrowing the margin until he had nowhere left to vanish. The second soldier appeared on the ridge opposite, moving low, sweeping with his weapon. Hale waited, scope tracking the alien's helmet as it turned slowly toward him. He let the crosshairs rest a fraction longer, then fired. The soldier tumbled into the snow, glowing lines dimming as silence swallowed him. The commander reacted instantly, firing into Hale's position with precision. Beams carved through wood, splitting the tree, searing holes into the earth. Hale rolled again, snow filling his mouth, his sides scraping raw against rock. Pain flared, but he forced it down, forced himself to keep moving. He had faced worse, and pain was just another signal to be ignored. When he found shelter behind a jagged outcrop, he risked a glance back. Only the commander remained now, standing in the open, armor bright against the storm. He made no attempt to conceal himself, no attempt to retreat. The hunter wanted him to see, wanted him to understand. Hale wiped the frost from his scope and studied the alien stance. Calm, patient, deliberate. Not a soldier panicked by losses, but one who had been waiting for this confrontation all along. A strange calm settled over Hale. He recognized the shape of this battle now. No more cat and mouse. The last of the squad was dead, and the commander would not leave until one of them fell. This was no longer a hunt. It was a duel. Hale breathed slowly, gathering his strength. His body ached, his muscles stiff from hours in the snow, his face raw from the wind. But his mind was sharp, and his will unbroken. He thought of Earth again, of the people who could never know his name, and he drew purpose from their silence. The commander raised his weapon slowly, deliberately, as though inviting Hale to witness the moment. Hale lowered his cheek to the rifle, steadied his scope, and let the crosshairs find the alien's heart. The storm screamed around them. Two hunters locked in silence, each waiting for the other to break. Hale did not fire. Not yet. Timing would decide this, and he would not waste his breath on impatience. The commander was clever, perhaps clever enough to anticipate the rhythm of his shots. So Hale slowed everything, let his body sink into the mountain, let his will stretch thinner than the storm. The alien took a step forward. Snow cracked underfoot. Hale's finger curled against the trigger. The mountain held its breath, and then he fired. The shot missed, glancing from the commander's armor in a spray of sparks. Hale swore under his breath, rolled away as the alien's plasma roared back, lighting the cliff like lightning striking earth. Stone shattered, snow melted, the world erupted. Hale stumbled down the slope, lungs burning, ribs screaming. He hit the ground hard but kept the rifle tight in his grip. Above him, the commander advanced, slow and relentless. The duel had begun, and there would be no retreat. Snow stung Hale's eyes as he scrambled across the ridge, body battered from the near miss, rifle clutched like a lifeline. The commander's pursuit was deliberate, unhurried, almost ceremonial. Every plasma burst carved the mountain, not wild but precise, as though the alien sought to shepherd him into a killing ground. Hale's breath rasped, but his mind stayed cold. He had fought men who relied on brute force before. The commander's strength lay not only in firepower, but in patience equal to his own. He ducked behind a shattered boulder, chest heaving. The storm screamed overhead, snow ripping sideways in sheets, masking sound and movement. He checked his rifle. The suppressor was pitted, the stock scarred, but it was still a weapon capable of cutting gods down to size. He wiped frost from the scope, chambered another round, and whispered to himself, one more. The commander's silhouette emerged through the haze, glowing armor stark against the storm. He moved with unsettling calm, weapon cradled low, helm sweeping the ridges as if he could see through stone. Hale steadied his aim, exhaled, and fired. The shot struck the alien's shoulder, jerking him back a step. Sparks burst from the armor, but the commander did not fall. He raised his weapon and returned fire with a searing beam that split the boulder in two. Shards rained down on Hale, forcing him to roll downslope, snow filling his mouth and ears. Pain lanced through his ribs as he hit the ground, but he pushed up, legs screaming. He slid into a ravine, pressing himself against the icy wall. His breath clouded, but his resolve hardened. He could not outlast this enemy by attrition. He would need cunning sharper than bullets. The ravine narrowed into a choke point where jagged cliffs leaned close, forming a natural funnel. Hale studied it quickly, his soldiers' mind mapping possibilities. If he could bait the commander into the gap, he could turn the mountain itself into a weapon. His pack still held the last of his explosives, enough to trigger a collapse if placed well. He worked quickly, hands steady despite the cold, planting charges beneath overhanging stone. Each movement was deliberate, precise. He had no second chance. The hum of the commander's approach grew louder. Hale slid into position, rifle resting on a ledge, detonator clutched in his offhand. He steadied his breath, forced his heartbeat into rhythm, and waited. Snow swirled thicker, cloaking him, yet the glowing figure cut through the storm, advancing without hesitation. The commander entered the choke point, weapon raised, helm scanning. For the first time, Hale sensed caution. Perhaps the alien knew the terrain was wrong, too confined. But pride kept him moving forward. Pride, Hale thought grimly, was a weakness even across species. Hale let the alien draw closer. 10 meters. 5. The ground trembled faintly under the commander's armored steps. Hale's finger brushed the trigger, but he resisted. One shot might wound him. One collapse could bury him. Timing mattered more than breath. The alien turned, helm tilting as though he sensed the trap. Plasma hissed at the cliffs, searing stone, shaking loose dust. Hale pressed the detonator. The charges roared, stone splitting with a sound like thunder. The cliff face collapsed, an avalanche of rock and ice crashing down on the commander. The world shook, snow billowing upward in choking clouds. Hale shielded his face, waiting for silence. When the echoes faded, only rubble remained where the commander had stood. He exhaled, relief flooding his chest, knees buckling against the icy ground. It was over. Then the rubble shifted. A glowing hand punched through stone, claws of metal tearing free. The commander rose from the debris, armor scarred and cracked, but body unbroken. His glow burned brighter, rage shimmering in every motion. Hale's stomach clenched. He had underestimated the alien's resilience. The commander advanced, slower now, limping slightly but relentless. Hale dragged himself upright, rifle raised. His shots rang out, one after another, sparking off fractured plates, punching through weakened joints. Each impact slowed the alien, drove him back but did not end him. The rifle clicked empty. Hale ejected the magazine, jammed another in place, and kept firing. One round found its mark, piercing the commander's thigh. The alien staggered, dropped to one knee, yet still raised his weapon, plasma sizzling in the storm. Hale dove aside as the beam scorched the snow where he had stood, the heat blistering his exposed skin. He crawled behind another outcrop, chest heaving, mind racing. Ammunition was dwindling. His body screamed with exhaustion. The duel was reaching its final moment. He forced his thoughts calm, forced himself to remember every lesson carved into him over years of war. Patience, precision, resolve. The commander limped forward, armor cracked, helm glowing dimmer now. Hale steadied his rifle for the last time, scope fixed on the alien's chest. He inhaled, exhaled, let his finger tighten. The shot cracked, slamming into the commander's torso. The alien reeled, stumbled, yet did not fall. Hale fired again and again, each round hammering into weakened armor until at last the glow flickered. The commander raised his weapon for one final strike. Hale's last bullet chambered, barrel steady despite the storm tearing around him. He placed the crosshairs on the alien's helm and fired. The shot pierced through, shattering luminescence, scattering fragments across the snow. The commander collapsed, body sinking into the white, glow extinguished. Silence returned to the mountain. Hale lowered his rifle, chest tight with exhaustion and triumph, laced with grief. His breath came ragged, his hands numb, but he remained standing. One man, one rifle, against a squad of gods. The mountain bore witness, eternal and cold. He stumbled closer to the fallen commander, studying the cracked armor, the alien features hidden within the shattered helm. For a moment, Hale almost felt respect. The creature had hunted him with skill, with honor even. They had both known this would end with only one walking away. Snow swirled again, covering the battlefield, erasing prints, burying the dead. Hale slung his rifle across his back and turned toward the ridges beyond. Pain flared in every muscle, yet his mind was clear. The galaxy would hear of this. Word would spread that a single human, bound to his mountain, had broken their finest. Fear would grow in the spaces between stars, and humanity would have bought time. He moved slowly, step by step, vanishing into the storm once more. Behind him, the mountains swallowed the dead, and silence returned. Hale's war was not finished, but tonight he had written its first true legend.